Hello, warm Easter greetings. Thank you for joining me today as I share some reflections on Palm Sunday, or the Grand Palm Sunday set of festivals in Egypt that actually start on the eve of Palm Sunday on Saturday. But first I want to take you back a few thousand years to the time of the ancient Egyptians, where palm trees had a very important and significant meaning. Palm trees, as we saw them in the temples of the ancient Egyptians, were about victory, were about fruitfulness, and were about joy. So when St. Mark the Evangelist brought Christianity to Egypt in the first century, round about 48 AD, the inhabitants of Egypt took on the positive meanings of the palm trees and imbued Christianity with them. So you would find palm trees drawn on textiles, but also columns in Coptic churches that had the images of palm trees. But I want to talk about how palm trees, specifically palm fronds, came to feature in the lives of the Copts and brought so much joy and power to celebrating Palm Sunday. And I'm going to do this at three levels: at the level of the personal, and how it connects to faith. It all connects to faith. At the level of the community, and at the level of the significance of the church as a community of worshippers as well. Now, I want to start with a story that I heard, and it really touched me. It was of a man advanced in years, and he was remembering that as a Copt, and he was a soldier in the Egyptian army, and they were stationed to Yemen in the 1963-1964 time when there was the civil war in Yemen. And as he was stationed there, all alone as a Copt, almost the only Copt among the group that he was with, he was homesick. He missed his family, and he missed the celebrations of the Copts for Palm Sunday. And as he was trying to think of what can he do in that time and moment, he looked around him, and lo and behold, there was a palm tree. And he asked someone to go up and cut a branch and give it to him. And he said that as he waved that branch of palm, the palm branch, that he suddenly wasn't feeling homesick anymore, because for him that was the way that he was remembering and celebrating Palm Sunday. I think it's very important to also for me to share that in Sunday school, in Coptic community, there's always this remembering of that palm trees are about this idea of standing strong, of flourishing in the faith. And I think that is very significant, because it's not just about Palm Sunday, but about then imbuing everyday faith with the power of the palm tree. I want to move to the level of the idea of heritage as a glue that helps faith become interconnected, because faith is supposed to be shared. It's not just supposed to be a question of personal faith, but faith is supposed to be shared. And here I want to talk about how in the Coptic communities, Saturday, round about afternoon, everybody would have collected all the palm fronds that would be the basis for families coming together, sometimes at home, but in rural areas you will find that people are coming together in the streets, laying mats on the floors in the streets so that neighbors would come out, and the palm fronds would be there for people to start weaving. And they would be woven into shapes of crosses, into shapes of a donkey, remembering that Christ went into Jerusalem on a donkey, and different, all kinds of heritage is dynamic. So people kept on innovating in the kind of shapes and forms that they took. But most importantly, it's not just about the creative. It's not just an artistic flair. It really is about sharing your faith. By once you make the little cross from the palm frond, you would give it to someone. This is not something to keep for yourself. You would give it to an aunt, an uncle, a brother, a sister, someone, a neighbor, a friend, and even you would make some shapes of a non-religious form, like a bracelet or a ring, and you would give it to some of your Muslim friends who would ask for this. And I think that is a way for the Copts to actually proclaim their faith through those palm fronds woven. And I think the power of it is that it's passed on intergenerationally. You learn how to weave those palm fronds into different shapes from your mother or your father or your aunt or your uncle or those that have come before you and have done this before you. So yes, there is the innovation, but you can't innovate unless you're building on a pre-existing culture. And through that sharing of those crosses, there is a kind of sharing of the faith in very tangible and powerful ways. I want to move on out to the third level, which is how heritage then enriches the church as a community of believers. Now, historically, we know that the Copts used to be waving the palm fronds, the palm branches, in a procession as they went to their churches. For all kinds of reasons, this waned. This became no longer possible in many communities where the space became more circumscribed for that kind of public profession. However, what has happened is that the Copts would then go to their churches on Saturday evening and start decorating the churches with palm fronds. And that became something that was almost like a ritual, not just in the Coptic Orthodox Church, but it was then picked up also by the Coptic Catholic and Coptic Protestant churches. Now, Sunday morning, if you can't take a public procession to the church itself, you can certainly have a celebration inside the church. And what you see in the Coptic churches on Sunday morning, in the middle of the liturgy, is that people are raising their palm fronds and they are singing Hosanna in the highest, celebrating the entry of their king. As they, with palm fronds raised high. It's a whole family celebration in the liturgy. But I want to talk about another very important point, which is that because the palm fronds became such a central aspect of an identity that is passed on from generation onto generation, the church it had to adapt that ritualistically beyond the liturgy. And here we find that an extra ritual was added after the liturgy, where the priest would come out and with holy water sprinkle the palm fronds, which would be woven, and then those palm fronds would be taken home until the next Palm Sunday. I just want to talk a little bit about, well, why is this important? What does this mean? I think the significance here is joy, is that it makes faith something to be shared and something very joyful. And I want to also talk about Psalm 92:12, where it says, "The righteous will flourish like a palm tree." That particular verse from the Psalm has been used time and again to remind Copts that the joy of Palm Sunday is not just for Palm Sunday, that as they look to the palm trees and as they look to the palm fronds that are kept in their homes, that they are to be reminded that they are to live a life remembering that they will be a life of flourishing. And as they wait in expediency for the day of the resurrection, that they will keep that joy even during the time of the Pascha until the day of the resurrection. So what I want to end with is, here we find that heritage was used in the sense of something from the familiar environment, used to familiarize one with one's faith. You're using heritage, the familiar, for familiarizing oneself with one's faith. What aspects of your heritage, things that are familiar to you and your community, can then be used to tell the stories and the songs and the meanings that help make faith very much alive and very much personal and very much something that is interconnected, that is then passed on from generation to generation. Thank you very much for being with me today. Goodbye.